Hello and welcome back to the Weekend Handyman. Today we are working on the red Jeep. The big red Jeep. Still not sure what I'm supposed to call it, but it's there. What we're doing today is we're going to make a hand throttle. Now the goal of this hand throttle is to just raise the idle of the Jeep to say 1200 or something like that RPM, which will just provide a little bit of extra power for blowing up the tires with my onboard air, and it'll get the alternator spinning a little bit faster to put some more power output for things like winching and basically just winching. It does have an automatic transmission, so I don't really need to raise the idle for wheeling or anything like that to try and work a clutch. I could use the increased idle speed to just let it roll a little bit faster than normal idle speed will make it roll. But, you know, there are plenty of reasons to have a hand throttle. Anyways, I've collected a few parts that I'm going to use to put it together. I'm going to spin the camera around for you and show you what I've got. So I went by the local bike shop in the little town that I live in and picked up some various parts and pieces. This is just a friction style shifter derailleur thingamadoodler that would be meant for, well, a bike. I'm not really sure if it would be a road bike or a mountain bike, but all it does is, you know, has a kind of spins around like that, which would normally, these would be, you know, individual speeds in a bike. But the reason I want this is because I can set it to like here and it'll stay there, and then I can move it up, move it back freely. So this would normally get fed through this way and would allow me the ability to, you know, pull on the throttle or whatnot. This cable, however, is too short. This is, I think, maybe 4.5, 5 feet. I need at least 7 to reach where I want to in the Jeep. So, when I was there at the bike shop, I was explaining him what I was doing. He pulled out this longer cable over here. And this cable is a little bit thicker, but it'll work just fine. I have to take this end there, grind that down so I can feed it through like the other one, and then being that the other side still has a stop, it'll still, you know, provide the same action. So, and then also while I was there, he threw in this piece of sheathing for a couple bucks or something like that. I think it was 50 cents a foot. So, and then to go along this, he gave me some ends to crimp the end down or whatever whenever I get it set to where I want it. So these are the pieces. Oh, and of course I almost forgot. These are frills or whatever. So when I cut the end of one of these off, I could put one of these stops and whatnot on the end of it, so I could use it to pull on the throttle linkage on the throttle body in the Jeep over there. So it's enough of this. Let's open up the hood and whatnot and see what I've been thinking. Alright, so here we are in the Jeep. I've already thought about this placement of where my hand throttle lever is going to go a little bit. There are a few options I was considering. I could have stuck it to the actual gear shifter itself. I could have stuck it here, up over here. Ultimately, however, I think I like the positioning here the best. So let me reorientate my trim piece over there and I'll show you what. So normally that's what the trim piece looks like. It just snaps in place nice and easily. No big deal. I'm sure you've all seen that before. I think I've shown it on camera before. Anyways, so that means that my throttle, or well, hand throttle linkage can sit right here like this. Now what I plan to do is take this clamp thing that would normally get clamped to the handlebar and spread it open flat so it kind of makes tabs instead of, you know, being round to go around the handlebar. And then I can kind of just stick it, or well, not stick it, but, you know, put it through the side of the panel and kind of bolt it down. And then that means that the cable has a nice easy access to go in behind the dash, and then I could feed the cable all the way through to the other side of the firewall, which means under the hood, and wrap the cable up around so I can get it hooked up to the throttle. Alright, so here we are under the hood of my Jeep. This here is my lovely inline 6, and I'm sure if you've kept up with the video series, you're familiar with under here by now. If you're not, though, you shouldn't be here. You got 30 videos to catch up on, so I'll leave an annotation to the very, very first video I made of this Jeep to get to the point that it is now. You should start there and work your way up to this video. If you are familiar with this, however, continue watching. You're good. So, this is obviously the throttle over here. The throttle body is right here. The throttle blade is in there or whatnot. So, this is what is connected to my gas pedal. This is the kick-down cable for the transmission. For when I put my foot to the floor, it'll downshift. But if you notice, there's an open space here. Now this would normally be where cruise control would go if your Jeep were to be equipped with cruise control. But that makes for a very convenient spot for me to mount up a cable. So the goal is to route the cable all the way from the firewall over there around like the cruise control would, put it inside of the clip that's still here for cruise control, then make a little bracket to hold the end of the cable in right here. And then the rest of the cable will be exposed, kind of like the kick-down cable. And then I'll make a little plate or bracket or figure out something to connect the end of the cable right here. Alrighty then, I'm going to bring you back up to speed here a little bit. So I have successfully mounted my hand throttle in its location. It works just fine like it's supposed to. If you're wondering, all I did was cut a hole with a Dremel, squeeze the tabs together so I could fit it through the square hole, then bent them back out, drilled a couple holes, and it's not going anywhere. Unless, of course, someone does the fasteners. Now you're probably wondering, gosh, why is there a Jones soda can, or soda candy can over there on the other side of the bezel? Well, that's a very good question, and one I'm going to answer. It is held on there in a similar manner. Just a couple fasteners in there. And what this is going to turn into is a clip for my Asus FT60. It's actually very secure. I'm going to have to add some rubber in there so it doesn't wiggle too much and cause damage to anything, but clips in there nicely. I went and test fit this into the Jeep to see if I like the height, and I originally was planning on having it further up here, but turns out I actually like down here better. So, I was digging around for different things that I thought I could use or not use as a hold down method for my FT60, and I ended up finding this old Jones carbonated candy can in my pile of odds and ends, so I said, you know what? Let me see if it'll work. And it turns out it works. I'm going to finish up with this bezel and put it back in place, and I'll go back to working on my hand throttle. This, all I'm going to do is scuff it up, paint it with some black paint so it doesn't look too oddly placed. And then I'm going to add a little bit of maybe a thin piece of rubber or something in here, just so it doesn't wiggle around too much. Because without any rubber in there, it clips in there and stays there, but it does slide around a little bit. So, got you back up to date with, or up to speed rather, with where I am with this. We'll see what I do next. Alright, we're back out here in the Jeep. I have my center console trim piece thing back installed. I have gone and found a way to route my cable that I'm going to use for the hand throttle, and that is the positioning of the ham radio mount that I went with. It is painted with just my truck bed liner from Rust-Oleum. Came up pretty good. I still need to find some kind of soft touch thing to stick to it or whatnot, but it clips in there just like that, and you can pull it out. Came up pretty good. So it's really hard to see, but the cable for the hand throttle is this cable right here, this bright black one, and it goes through the rubber boot that the shifter cable would go through, and it comes up around this way over the fuel rail and up and around with my throttle cable, clips into here and comes to here. Now the way I did this, of course, is I took a pointy screwdriver, or a screwdriver that has already been previously ground to a point, poked a hole in the rubber boot, and then just fed this black cable through, cut it where I wanted it, and then to test fit my actual braided cable, pushed that through, and am able to decide and cut that as well, but I haven't yet. The only thing I did do is cut off one of the stops so I could feed it through the cable like normal. Now obviously I have a little bit of slack here, so I could push that back through and zip tie this end away from the fuel rail and whatnot, so it doesn't get burnt off or tied up in anything. So anyways, the next thing I need to do is take my braided cable, feed it through the hand throttle itself, and then bring it up all the way around the cable out here, and then do some thinking and whatnot for a stop for this end to get stuck to, and then figure out what kind of bracket or holes I need to drill on this so I can make it have a some sort of a slip action along with a pull action. And just like that, there is now a cable here. So if I were driving, let's say, obviously I'd be in drive, but I could come over here and bump up idle a bit, however high I want, and then put her back down. Now of course there's going to be, it's not attached to the other end, so it doesn't have the spring in it or anything, but that's how it's supposed to work. Hopefully it does. And then on this end so far I just have the cable end on it so far. I'm going to attempt to find something that'll actually clip into this hole, similar to how the throttle cable clips and the kickdown cable clips. I might be able to find something or make something that'll actually clip into there. So I'm going to dig around for that, and I just have to find or make a little bracket for this, as I've said before. Alright, I have found something that I can clip into that slot on that throttle linkage bracket, we'll call it. I'm not really sure what the actual name of it is, but it's just the bracket that holds the throttle linkages, kickdown cable, and cruise control cable. What I ended up doing is taking one of these switches that usually would come with a Walmart style headlight kit or fog light kit, or, well, fog light kit usually, not a headlight kit, but it comes with this funky, cheap ass, shitty switch that work great, but they look like complete ass. And I guess they're not really that shitty, but they just look like ass. So I took it apart, because normally it'll look like this, and it clips down into its housing. So if you unclip it, take out all the gooply bits in the middle, cut it in half, it actually clips right into that slot. So I'll go back over to the Jeep and show you. Alright, we're back here looking at the throttle linkage and throttle body area of the Jeep. Here's my clip that I cut in half, or well, light switch that I cut in half. It actually fits in there perfectly and clips into, actually snaps into place. And that means it's absolutely perfect to feed the end of this cable through down into there, and then it'll do exactly what it's supposed to. It's very similar to this style clip. It accomplishes the same thing as this kickdown cable clip does, but it actually fits in there just about perfectly. My only decision is if I want it to say off or if I want it to say on. Other than that, we're good to go. Alright, so it's actually the next day now that I'm out here, and then also I pulled my cable back out and threw some silicone spray all over it and pushed it all the way back through. There wasn't a lot of resistance in it, but there was enough where I didn't want to have any chance of it ever having too much resistance to pull the throttle back. I mean, the spring has a decent amount of, force in it, but I didn't want to chance it and all of a sudden run into a situation where I pull on the hand throttle and then it won't go back down by itself because it won't be able to pull the cable through. And the silicone spray will also add a little bit of waterproofing to it too, so this cable doesn't ever get corroded or anything like that and then just get completely stuck. So what I need to do next is make a bracket to attach this cable to. And I went digging around through my box of spare metal, and this is a piece of the rocker panel off of the white Jeep. And I picked it because it has a nice 90-degree in it already, so I could cut a chunk out of this corner right here, drill a hole in it, drill a couple more holes to mount to the throttle linkage lever thing, and then be all set. Maybe I'll touch it up with a little bit of paint after it's being cut and drilled. But yeah, nice and easy. That's why I keep all this old metal around. See, who knows what little brackets and 90-degree bends and crap you can come up with, and it's 16th inch thick, so it's plenty strong for what I need to do with it anyways. So it turns out that this metal is way, way harder than I thought, and it was actually proving to be impossible to drill through it. No matter what drill bit I used, even the cobalt set, nothing would touch it. So I went to an alternative plan, which involved making a little clip to go into there. Now this clip is actually off of a set of winch wiper blades. I had got a new set of winch wiper blades for my daily, and there was a couple different clip options on there depending on what car you're putting it on. Of course I saved them, and because I knew they'd probably eventually come in handy, weird little things like this, and they did. So I cut it down a little bit and made that hole just a slightly bit bigger, and it clips onto where the cruise control would normally go, just like so. And then all I have to do is take my cable and feed it down through a 16th inch hole that I drilled all the way through this thing. So now all I have to do is remount my throttle body lever and then cut the cable and put the furl on the end of it, and then it can slip in through or and get pulled open like this with the hand throttle. Ingenuity at its finest, I must say. Alright, so here's the finished product, all hooked up and ready to go. If you're wondering, I already did try it to make sure it does work. Also, the fact that it's hitting the sensor actually isn't a problem. I thought it was going to be. When the throttle opens, it actually goes up. But, so it doesn't really ever cause any interference. But you can see how it works. So when you open the throttle, it just slacks the cable down on this end instead of making it curl up over here somewhere. Of course, the gas pedal still works just fine. So I'll show you its operation from inside of the cab. Alright, we are inside of the Jeep now. Never mind the check engine light. I had unplugged that sensor and forgot to plug it back in before I started it. So that'll go away on its own eventually, or I suppose I could clear it. But over here is my hand throttle. So that one click brings it up to about almost 1500. Bring it down a little bit and it'll be about 1200. And of course I could go hog wild if I wanted to, but there's no need for that. And now it's all the way back off and we're at idle speed. And I can still use my foot like it's supposed to be. And that'll close out this Weekend Handyman video. Of course, if you want to connect with us socially, find us on Facebook. Link will be in the description. Be sure to leave a comment. Tell me how great I am, how much of an idiot I am. I'll take either. Make sure you subscribe. And best of all, share this video with as many people as you can think of.